Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Mukhtar. Is that profit taking we're seeing in
Thank
the
you
market
so
today,
much.
Mukhtar?
Come again?
Is that profit taking we're seeing playing out in this industrial goods space, Mukhtar?
I think it's you could call it profit taking, but really you could tell it profit taking or reshuffling of investment portfolio. Because what investors are doing now, they're trying to see how they can exit some other high cap equity with the thing they've gotten. They've gotten to their equilibrium level at the moment, and they can only but begin to remain that level or slip down because there's no any market information they are going to get. So they are looking towards moving on to other sectors, especially equities in the financial sector, where they know that they will be getting a high payment of interim dividend, possibly because we've not heard any of those banks coming out to tell us that they will not be paying interim dividend for the half year quarter. So most investors are looking at that and have been reshuffling and to go into this other stocks, especially those from the banking sector that will be paying interim dividends.
All right, Mukhtar, but let's look into the first two quarters of the year so far, the first quarter and the second quarter. Is it a case of two different stories of what's playing out there?
Well, the first quarter was mixed. The half year was a little bit mixed. We started the year very rough, especially with the entry of COVID-19, the fall in oil price. All those things did not help the market, and that is what we're still struggling with up to this moment. So what we've seen in the market, and again, not to forget that the foreign investors also are practically non-existent in the Nigerian market. If you look at information getting and what they used to be before, they used to be the sustaining the bullish run, especially in the market, and with the tank of exchange rate volatility we have, they've not come in, especially during this half year. So that with the falling oil price at that time, or even if you see the oil price have recovered, we should know that our output also have actually gone down. So when you look at all these factors, you realize that the first half of the year has not been very positive for the market in any way. So what investors are doing now is moving into those equity that they think going forward they will begin to cover up for some of their losses they have seen during the half year of the year.
Yeah, because the second quarter wasn't really as bad as we thought it was going to be, because we're seeing quite a lot of the sectors kind of clawing back some of the gains in that time. But for you though, looking into the second half of the year, what can we expect?
Kenneth, I looking at the crystal ball in front of me, looking at the news that are coming out, looking at the microeconomic news, looking at the financial news, looking at economy, you won't but say the second half of the year could be one of the toughest years for Nigeria as a nation, for our economy as a nation, and the equity market, the stock market cannot be exempted from that also. But when you look at the market itself, the market fundamentals, the companies that are listed, you could see light at the end of the tunnel. But then again, we need to look at, it depends on which device you are. If you are investors that have been playing the market from the month of December to the half year now, you will say that it has been, like you said, it has not been as bad as we thought, especially when it went that bad and there was recovery. Looking at the next half year, I think it's going to be mixed, but it all depends on what we see from the second quarter results that will begin to trip in from the month of July and August. If those results are going to beat expectation of the market, then we'll see that the market will go up in the second quarter. But if those returns goes down beyond what market expects, then you could see the stock market slipping even towards the beginning of the new year. Because, towards during the first quarter, most companies were shut down, and so people want to see how those companies were able to recover, what strategy are they put in place going forward. It's during the second half result that we are going to see, the half year result that we are going to see, that will determine whether we'll see a full year result that will be very nice for investors. So, like I said, it depends. You look at the economic variables, it's not looking good. But when those half years results begin to come in, that is where investors will begin to look at the market critically, and they will begin to see in clear terms where we think the market will end in the years in the coming years.
All right, definitely quite a lot to expect from the half-year numbers, but I'm trying to get into how corporates have tapped into the market for funds in this first half of the year and understand what the trends have been so far.
I didn't get that.
Looking at how corporates are tapping into the market for funds, we're seeing rights issues. We're seeing commercial papers, quite a number of them coming from the corporates there. I'm trying to understand what the trends have been so far for some of the large corporates who are getting funds from the markets.
I still didn't get it. It wasn't clear for me. I didn't get it clear.
All right, okay, just to speak on how corporates are tapping into the markets, we've seen quite a number of rights issues play out. We've also seen, corporates look to the commercial papers as well. I'd just like you to speak to how the market has been a source of funds for corporates.
I mean, maybe talking about what the market has seen in some of the corporate results that have come in. But if I'm correct, and if you look at that, the first quarter results actually came in even when the economy was on a lockdown. It was a little bit positive, especially depending on which side of the device you are. And if you are in the financial sector, it beat market expectations, especially the non-income area of those financial sector. We saw how they were able to employ their digital medium for good profit, even if almost half of 1 month or half of that quarter were done with the lockdown. Then you look at the good news from Boa Cement during the first quarter, the result they came out, their year-end results, and also what they were able to give to investors. And then you look at the general perception of the market during the first quarter, you realize that indigenous investors have been the one that have really played the market. So when you look at all this, that's what will have happened